welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today's video is an uncensored Q&A of my postpartum experience. So be warned, if you are squeamish, please don't listen any further because I will be going into the ins and outs of postpartum. Some of you have kindly asked me some questions over on my Instagram story, and a lot of them are very, how do I put it? They are going to require very graphic answers. Thank you for asking those questions, and hopefully I can answer them as best as I can. So let's get started. The first question I got asked, the strangest question as well, was, did you eat or keep your placenta? No, is the short answer. After I'd birthed my placenta, the midwife did actually ask me, would you like to see your placenta? And I didn't even want to see it. I know some people say that it's really nutritious to eat it, or some people keep it and freeze it as sort of like a memento of their birth. But to be honest with you, I was so overwhelmed with what had just happened, and she said, would you like to see your placenta? And I just thought, do you know what? The last thing on my mind right now is to see this bit of flesh that has just come out of me. And I know it was the thing that kept my baby alive while she was inside me, and I should be treating it as this amazing thing, but I just didn't want to see it. So each to their own, but no, I didn't eat or keep my placenta. The next question I got asked was, when did you feel normal again after giving birth? Now, this one is a bit of a tricky one because it depends what this person means by normal, because I think a lot of mums are under the expectation that they are going to get back to being completely normal again after having given birth. And I'm one of these mums that I've kind of thought, I've been through this absolutely incredible process. My body completely changed in order for me to bear a child, and I cannot just expect it to just snap back to exactly how it was before. And so in terms of feeling normal, as in able to go about daily life normal again, it was probably about 3 or 4 weeks. But if by that question you meant having your body back how it used to be, I don't think I'm ever going to be back to where I was before, and I'm totally okay with that. I've got stretch marks, I've got a flubby tummy at the bottom, which looks like a let down balloon, but that's fine because I carried a baby in it for 9 months. Speaking of the devil, do you want to be on my YouTube video? Would you like to come and say hello? Bella wants to be in on the action. Say hi! Say hi! Oh, your skirt's all up by your neck. There you go. You're going to be on my YouTube video. So yeah, in terms of being actually normal, like in terms of your body, I just don't think I'm ever going to be back there, and that is okay. But in terms of recovery, I think it took about 3 or 4 weeks before I was kind of feeling a bit more human again. Everything is very sore after you've given birth. You're very sore down below. You're very swollen. But so it took about 3 to 4 weeks for all that to kind of go back to normal, for me to be able to walk normally again, for me to be able to pee without it absolutely killing, and to poo without it absolutely killing as well, and just kind of for my belly to be back to the same sort of size it was, because for a while after having a baby you look as though you're about 20 weeks pregnant. So it took about maybe 2 or 3 weeks for that to go down to the normal size, but it is still kind of loose skin. Yeah, hope that answers your question. But what I just say to myself is, it took 9 months for me to grow this beautiful little girl inside me. So that's 9 months of change to your body. So you can't just expect for it to snap back in a few weeks' time. So I've kind of not really thought about it. I've kind of just not put too much pressure on myself to get back to how I was before, because I'm only 4 months postpartum, so I'm going to give it at least 9 months before I even think about being sort of the way I was before. And in terms of recovery, something that I also learned was that when your placenta comes away from the lining of your uterus, it leaves an open wound the size of a dinner plate in there, which is why you bleed a lot postpartum. And if you had a wound the size of a dinner plate on the outside of your body, you would rest. You'd be resting. You wouldn't leave your bed. You wouldn't go out and do the things that all these new mums want to do. So I don't know why we put so much pressure on ourselves to be up and about and going and doing things so early in mum life. In certain cultures, they have a 6-week period where they don't even leave the house. They just stay in and rest and get better. And I think everyone should adopt that, because I put so much pressure on myself to get out of the house, to get to baby classes in her first couple of weeks of life, and I think that was just too much, and I didn't allow myself to rest like I should. So yeah, in terms of recovery, just rest up, just give your body a chance to heal. Hey Bella. She's just staring at me like, what are you talking about, mummy? What are you talking about? Okay, so on to a bit more of a graphic question now, which is, what was it like down below after giving birth? In short, it was like a train wreck. Just like a train wreck. You have had this baby come out of your vagina. Her head was not much smaller than this when she was born, because their heads are quite swollen when they're born. And that has come out of your vagina. You can't expect it to just snap back to how it was before. And in actual fact, most women tear during birth as well. So it's kind of a mess of stitches, of swelling, of sort of open gapiness. Sorry about the graphicness, but it's true, and people have to say it. And I'm not trying to scare pregnant women or people who want to have babies in the future, but I just have to say it how it is, and that is that it's a mess. But it does go back. It doesn't, for me, it didn't go back to completely normal, but it does go back to within a degree of normalness, if that's even a saying. So a lot of women tear during childbirth, which you can get like a 1st, 2nd or 3rd degree tear. Bella decided she didn't want to be in my video anymore. Hey, you don't want to be on my video anymore. I had a 2nd degree tear, but the doctors did have to be called in to assess whether it was in fact a 3rd degree tear, because the midwife wasn't sure. And in short, what that meant was I tore from back to front. So a lot of people think you can only tear downwards, so from your vagina to your bottom, really, but you can actually tear upwards as well. So I tore upwards and downwards and sideways as well. So I tore top to bottom and through both sides of my labia. So it was quite a bad tear, but it wasn't internal, so I didn't have to go to theatre to have it stitched up. It did, however, take about an hour of stitching and lots and lots and lots of stitches, and they did also leave some of it open as well. So you can imagine how much it stung when I needed to go for a wee. My next question was, when did you stop bleeding after giving birth? Now, a lot of people don't know that you actually bleed after giving birth. And to be honest with you, up until my pregnancy, I didn't really know either. And I read about it in books and heard about it on YouTube videos like this one. And I just kind of assumed you'd have maybe a day of bleeding from the trauma of giving birth, and then it would just stop. But absolutely not. I felt like I had the heaviest period that I'd ever had in my life for 6 weeks. It was horrendous, and I never even knew that it was going to happen. And I bought sanitary towels to wear in my knickers after giving birth. My friend told me sanitary towels wouldn't work and that I'd need adult nappies, and I didn't really believe her. I just thought, oh, I've never really been a heavy bleeder, so it's going to be absolutely fine. And then after giving birth, literally I soaked through so many sanitary towels that I then went out and purchased adult nappies, and they got me through probably 3 weeks of postpartum nightmare of bleeding. So the next question was, well, kind of a question. I am going to breastfeed my next baby. Breastfeeding, tell me everything. Now, there is not enough camera roll in the world to tell you everything about my breastfeeding story. It is a very long story. We had a lot of issues. We overcame a lot of issues. So I am going to do a whole separate video about my breastfeeding story. But for now, I'll just tell you the bare minimum and a few tips around it. And those are: get your latch right before you leave hospital. I was so impatient and just wanted to get home. I was fed up with hospital. I just wanted to get home with my baby and be with my partner because he wasn't allowed to stay with me in hospital. And I wish I'd stayed in a little bit longer to get her latch right. Her latch wasn't right, she wasn't feeding properly, and my milk hadn't come in. And I just thought, oh, it's fine. I can deal with this at home. No, you need the support of the midwives, and until you get it right, just don't go home. So that's my first top tip for breastfeeding. Secondly, get nipple cream. Your nipples are so sore in those first few weeks of breastfeeding, and just put it on before and after every single feed. Oh, bless you. Oh, bless you. I never got cracked or bleeding nipples, thankfully, and I put that down to the nipple cream that I used. And I used the Lancino one, lanolin I think it's called. It's in a purple bottle, and it was absolutely amazing and saved my nipples from so much trauma. She's making some cracking noises down there. Are you blowing raspberries at me? Are you happy enough to come back in the video now? You want to come back in? Say hi everybody again. I'm back. And as well as using the support of the midwives in the hospital for your breastfeeding, use the support networks that are out there for breastfeeding as well. There's Breastfeeding Cafes, the Breastfeeding Support Network will be able to give you some information on the support groups that are out there. Your health visitor, your midwife, just use them where you can, because I really feel like I didn't use them enough. And had I used them a bit better than I did, we might have been able to overcome a lot more of the issues that we had a lot faster. So definitely use the support that's out there. The next question was, how did you deal with the emotional side of giving birth with the hormones? Did you suffer from postnatal depression or postnatal anxiety? No, in short, I don't believe that I suffered from either of those. That's something that the midwives and health visitors check up on quite a lot. And they didn't diagnose me with it. What are you doing? They didn't diagnose me with it or anything like that. However, the hormones are a totally different thing. Come here. Hello, everybody. Sit there. There you go. Is that better? The hormones are a totally different level. I mean, I've had periods and I've been hormonal through those and everything like that, but these are just a totally different level. That with the whole, how overwhelmed you are with the whole experience, you're just so emotional. You're so happy, but you're overwhelmed and you're sad for some reasons as well. And your hormones are all over the place because you've had all of these hormones on board for 9 months, and then suddenly you're on like a slope downwards and just everything's going on, and you're sleep deprived and you've got this new baby to look after, and everything just becomes a little bit too much. And I found myself crying for no reason for probably the first couple of weeks of having Bella. And it does get better. I mean, some people, you kind of feel like you're stuck in a rut and that it's never ever going to get better, but it really, really does. And when the baby starts sleeping a bit more and you're getting more sleep yourself and you're feeling a bit better, everything sort of gets a bit better. But again, what I would say is seek support. If your family or friends are offering to support you in any way, take their help. My mother-in-law bought us our dinners for the first couple of weeks of having Bella, and there were some points that my partner would say to her, oh no, don't worry, I know you're busy. And I was like, no, yeah, I will have that dinner. Because cooking dinner is the last thing you want to do when you've got this new baby to look after. What I would also say is, I think being overwhelmed was one of the main causes of my tears in the first few weeks of having Bella. And part of the reason of that was all the visitors that kept coming. You've already got so much to deal with. You've got this new life that you've got to look after, and your family has completely changed. And the night I got home from hospital, I had 8 visitors, and I was aching all over. I couldn't sit down. I had my feet up on a stool because they were so swollen. I was breastfeeding Bella, and I had to do it for the first time at home in front of all these visitors. And it was just all very overwhelming and very difficult to cope with. So what I would say is, if you feel like you're getting slightly overwhelmed, just tell your visitors. They won't mind if you ask them to come back another day. Otherwise, it just becomes too much to deal with all in one go. And also, you've been through this traumatic experience. You have popped a baby out of your vagina, and some people have traumatic births like I did. I had a large hemorrhage after giving birth, and obviously I had my tear to deal with as well. And then suddenly you've got this new baby, so you've got no time to actually process what has just happened to you. You're just thrown into this whole new world where you've got this new baby that is relying on you for their every need, and it's so overwhelming. And that's where I think you can become very tearful and very emotional. And motherhood can be very lonely as well. You can have all the people around you in the world. You can have your mum, your mother-in-law, your family, your friends, your partner, all supporting you, and you can still feel so lonely because you're going through this experience and nobody can really relate to it around you because it is a unique experience. No one person's birth is exactly the same. So it can become very lonely. Okay, so next question. Is the sleep deprivation as bad as everyone says? This is actually a tough one, and you wouldn't think it would be, but to start off with, absolutely, the sleep deprivation was horrendous, and I don't think I slept for the first 2 weeks of Bella's life. However, her first few weeks of her life were very different to what most people's would be, and she had to stay in hospital because she had jaundice and had to be under UV lights. So I didn't sleep for that time purely because I had to feed her every 3 hours. I had to breastfeed her every 3 hours. Then I had to top up with formula, and then I had to pump after that. So by the time I'd fed her, given her her formula and pumped, and then got myself comfortable and back into bed, it was time to wake up and do it all over again. So I didn't really sleep for those first few weeks. But you kind of get used to the sleep deprivation, and somehow you manage to focus and carry on without the sleep. So I have no idea how, but I'm sure other mums out there can relate to this kind of zombie-like mode you go into, and you just kind of go on autopilot and do what you have to do without having slept in a week. And it's so cliche and everyone says it, and I never believed it to start off with, but it does get easier, I promise you. And if you're one of those mums out there right now that's stuck in that stage where you're not getting any sleep and it doesn't feel like it's going to get any better, it really does. And it's very different for everybody. But for me, it was when Bella got to around 3 months that things kind of settled down a little bit. The next question is, when did you first have sex again after giving birth? Now, this is an interesting question because I've spoken to a lot of mums about this, and everyone is very, very different for what they say. Some mums, they do it again 2 weeks after giving birth. I absolutely would not let Alec anywhere near me 2 weeks after giving birth because everything was still such a mess down below. And a little side note from the question earlier about what it was like down below after giving birth. My midwife came round one day and I actually panicked because I thought that my stitches had fallen out because the hole was still so big. And I just thought, oh my God, the stitches have come out because the hole couldn't possibly be that big. I guess I was naive in thinking that it would kind of just spring back to how it used to be. within a few days. And what I'd done is held a mirror down there and kind of squatted to look to see what it was like, which, by the way, don't ever do. Never look down below ever under any circumstances, because you will just freak yourself out or pass out or something along those lines. So just never ever look. But yeah, I squatted to look down below because I felt like something was wrong, and it was an absolute mess. So my midwife came over to do like the postnatal checks, and I explained what I thought had happened, and she had a look and she said, do you mind if I just get your partner in here and get him to have a look, because obviously he's seen it, he knows what it looks like. So unfortunately, yes, Alec did have a look, and he said it looked normal and everything was kind of going back to how it was before. And it was purely the fact that I had squatted to look in the mirror that everything kind of looked like it was sort of gaping again. And because of that, I did not want Alec anywhere near me until at least probably 8 weeks after giving birth. First of all, I wanted to wait until my 6-week check to get my stitches and everything checked to make sure that everything was healing okay. But even after that, everything was still very, very sore, and everything heals back much tighter than it was before. I don't know if this is like it for everybody, but I think the scar tissue and things like that, it heals a bit tighter, so it can be quite uncomfortable when you first have sex. Okay, so final question. How did you make it through cluster feeding? So cluster feeding is something that breastfed babies do in order to up your supply when they're going through a growth spurt. And it is hell on earth. You can literally be stuck to the sofa from 4 p.m. till 4 a.m. with this baby sucking on your nipple like their life depends on it. And it can be very painful, it can be very emotional, and you can imagine the lack of sleep when your baby is cluster feeding. So I got through cluster feeding with multiple box sets. I found something that I really wanted to watch on the TV, and I put it on and I made sure that it would play through all of the episodes. So on Netflix it does that. I also had like a little stash of stuff around me. So I had my coffee table next to me by the sofa with a bottle of water, some healthy snacks, as well as some naughty snacks like biscuits and chocolate. I had my phone, a battery pack and a phone charger. I had the TV remote, some tissues because I had a cold at the time. And yeah, I just sat there on my sofa and cluster fed Bella until the cows came home. And that is all of my questions. So thank you so much for asking those questions. If you have any other questions that you'd like to ask me, please drop them in the comments below, and I will do another Q&A when Bella is about 6 months old and answer them then. If you also have any other questions about her routine or anything like that, please drop them in the comments below. If you liked my video, don't forget to subscribe. I've got a lot of new exciting videos coming up about baby products, baby reviews, and I'm also doing my weekly vlogs again, which is so exciting, and I can't wait to upload my first one next week. So yeah, I hope to see you guys soon, and thank you for watching.